I've learned not by wanting to learn. God has forced me to learn this, to have margin in my life.
Yes.
Right? Because without, and I love it because even when we have no notepad, like a legal size notepad of paper is what we use at work to take notes.
Okay.
Right? And there's a margin. And that margin's there for a reason.
Yes.
I used to start in the margin and I would write from one end to the other.
Oh, wow.
Right? And
God, how symbolic.
It was totally symbolic. And then you need to add something, right? Oh, I need to add this to there. And all of a sudden your paper's a mess because there's no space. So same thing with margin in our lives. We have to have that empty space so that when we need to add something or something comes up in our plans, like we have the space to put it in there. Hi, I'm Caroline Howard, a biblical counselor and certified life breakthrough coach.
And I'm Chris Oneth, marriage and family therapist and executive director of Downey Park Counseling Associates.
Welcome to Our Next Question, where we attempt to answer the questions of life through conversations in psychology and Christianity.
Remember, this is a place of discovery and definitely not the final answer.
All right, and we're back.
Here we are.
Again. They keep letting us come back.
If I haven't said it already, I'll say it again. Episode 33. What is the
problem with planning?
What is the problem with planning?
I just feel like we have to say it like that.
And the reason we're having this whole discussion is because it is the new year. Everybody's into planning things, plan this, plan that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, some people are even starting to plan their summer vacations. Like they do that at the beginning of the year.
Oh my word.
Apparently we are not those people.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Well,
I thought you are a planner. You are a planner.
Okay, well, we'll get into that. But speaking of planning trips.
Finger pointed at you, planner.
Do you I had point all five because you have four pointing back at you, but all of mine are pointing. So more fingers pointed at you.
Yeah.
Question. What's a favorite trip you've taken?
A favorite trip. Man, I've taken many favorite trips.
We're not talking about acid trips.
Wow. For the record, ladies and gentlemen, I have never dropped acid. I've done completely sober, idiotic things, but never dropped acid. Good gravy. Are kids listening to this?
I hope so.
Just remember which one of us brought that on.
I've never taken an acid trip either, so.
Okay.
Just clarifying. Okay, a favorite trip.
So your question is to me. Okay. Geez, and I should be thinking about this.
Oh, well, I could go to Caleb first.
What about you? Let's start with you because
Well, see, I like to go get my way around these questions. I can't narrow it down to just one.
I think you listen to our questions, then you have to one up us.
Wow.
No, that's a joke. She doesn't do that.
It would be San Francisco or New York. That's the whole thing.
Wait a second. Wait. Now I'm confused.
Why?
Are you talking about a favorite destination or a favorite trip you've been on?
A favorite trip I've been on. But there's trips to San Francisco.
Wow, that's hurtful because you went to Austin with my wife. That doesn't get an honorable mention.
Who did I go to New York with?
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that one.
Yeah. Can you be a little less hurt? But New York was a bucket list trip. And it truly was. I did not think in my lifetime I'd ever get there.
Wow.
So I guess I will say New York was.
Okay. You ate all three of your foods that you eat?
Oh my word. I ate more than 3 foods. We ate so much good food there.
Oh,
so much good food. Saw 2 Broadway shows.
That is very cool.
What shows?
We saw Wicked. That was the very first one. So my first Broadway show was Wicked. My second Broadway show was Moulin Rouge, which was amazing and probably the most fun I've ever had at a show.
No kidding.
Because they do a little sing-along at the end.
Wow.
And everyone gets up.
I was going to ask, participation?
Yes, everyone gets to get up and we were dancing and singing.
Whoa, was my wife up there dancing the can-can? Because that's not...
we were totally doing the can-can.
Okay.
It was so fun. But getting to ride the subway and, the walk
subway
across the bridges. And I mean, it was amazing.
Jeez, the subway where the flu goes to
No, the subway was fun. The subway was fun. I could live that life on the daily.
The subway?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could live the city life, ride the subway.
I went into New York City one time. It was with my aunt. And she just says, hey, you want to go they lived in New Jersey.
Okay.
So drove into New York for a second. Some guy washed our window. And this was back in when there wasn't a lot of people standing around washing windows.
Okay. So
randomly.
Yeah.
And she was like, they do this. They expect money. And I was looking around. It was major traffic jam. And that's all I remember. I think I was 14.
It's beautiful. It sounds beautiful.
Okay.
Okay. Caleb.
Yeah.
A favorite trip.
I think, I haven't taken a lot of trips. I've never left the U.S., which I'm really wanting to do.
Sheltered.
Yeah.
I know. That's why we're saving Chris for last, because he's going to have some great trips.
I just got my very first passport a couple of years ago because my daughter was going out of the country on a missions trip. And I was like, if something happens to her, I have no way to get there. Mm-hmm. But I've never been out of the country either.
Wow.
So I'd say one of my favorite trips I took in 2022. I think I went out to Virginia to be with my family out there for the first time. I'd never been to Virginia before.
Okay, nice.
And it was just, like I didn't have any like particular plans. They made some plans, but just to be there. They lived in this beautiful community around like a lake there, and there's so much history in Virginia. Cool. Yeah. So many battlegrounds,
buried cannonballs.
So
that's really cool.
I just really enjoyed that time of being in that place, checking out like new things I'd never seen before, and just like I remember it being a really restful trip too.
Wow.
Like not a ton of like not crammed full of things, but just being able to enjoy and kind of be at peace. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. So I'm kind of a mild adventurer. The reason I say mild, because if you take on that moniker of adventurer, then you're like in the deepest, darkest jungles and all this other stuff. But I like
But you've been to some deep, dark jungles. Vietnam?
We weren't in the deep, dark jungle.
Okay.
Yes, I've been to Vietnam. That was amazing. I was thinking about that versus Japan. The only reason I'm picking Japan is because the weather wasn't stiflingly hot.
Okay.
But the people in both places were incredible and amazing.
Okay. Well, let's say Japan you got to experience with some of your kids too, right?
That's the other thing that I thought was cool. I have actual footage of my 3 boys on the streets of Japan weaving in and out of Japanese, like wrestling each other.
That's cool.
Which is their way of saying, I love you, man.
Right.
And so there's full on headlocks and pushing and all this other stuff. And of course the Japanese, they don't want to bring, my understanding is in Japanese culture, to actually notice someone going through something, the belief is that by noticing them and looking at them, you're embarrassing them. And so the idea is you kind of ignore them. Not to be rude.
Right.
So an incident happened years ago when my mother-in-law went to Japan and she fell and she hurt herself.
Oh, no.
But nobody there stopped to help. And again, it's not a...
Yeah, but crazy.
It's not a you're on your own thing. It's a, oh my gosh, she must be so embarrassed that we won't bring attention to her.
Wow.
So, but I'm telling you, the food, the people, the scenery. We went to Mount Fuji. We went to the Great Buddha of Kamakura. We walked Tokyo. We must have walked 11, 12 miles that day.
Wow.
It was just incredible. Unfortunately, we were not able to get into like any of the castles. I think Tokyo Castle is where the emperor stays, so obviously we weren't let in there. But I really want to go back and go visit like Osaka Castle and some of the ancient places. When I was in junior high school, I was part of the 80s karate craze, excuse me.
Karate
and so
Kid.
I studied up on like the Japanese and ninja and samurai and all this other stuff. And
nice.
I was going to go to Japan and learn martial arts and live off the land, challenge people in different dojos. But it didn't work out, so now I'm doing this.
So now you challenge people
So now
in
I'm
your
doing it.
office,
Absolutely.
your clients.
Absolutely.
Let me challenge you.
So yeah, Japan was an epic trip.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Nice. Look at
All
us, travelers.
Yes,
So-
even if it's across the street.
Right.
Or it's a Turlock, which,
we traveled to
kudos
Turlock.
to you.
I live in Houston. I traveled to Turlock.
There you go.
I grew up in Modesto. I made the big leap to move to Houston.
Whoa. See the world.
I'm seeing the world. Yes, one street at a time.
Okay, so we are talking about planning.
What is the problem with planning?
What is the problem there?
You just have to say it with a little toot for some reason.
So we got to say that there's not necessarily, there's lots of benefits to planning.
Yes.
And in this time of year, people are planning things. Super important to plan.
Yes.
It builds structure. Within planning, it can build a type of flexibility because if you have a general outline of what to do, you can plan on then using your resources, whatever resources you have. If you're going to take a trip, it's like how much gas should we buy? How much food should we bring? Where do we need to stop to go to the bathroom? Very important, right? They can provide a type of motivation because it outlines what's seen ahead.
Yeah.
This ties in with our resolution podcast because as we make goals and resolutions to be able to make them measurable and attainable, super important. And they can also help us to gauge, are we tracking where we want to be or where we want to go? Right. That we use a map as a type of planning because we're looking at it and saying, okay, this is where I want to head. And So
think Caleb won't remember this because he's so young.
Oh boy.
A map. Maps really are a thing, Caleb. Do we need to learn that?
What? It's weird.
I remember as a kid having to pull out the map, lay it out, and take a red pen, mark your route that you were going to go. And
are you talking about Google Maps?
No. No.
You mean it doesn't plan the route for you?
Paper map. And then we get on the road and mom has the map while dad's driving and mom tells dad, and of course you're going to have to stop at least once or twice at a gas station to say,
ooh, boy.
Now I thought this was the way, but get the right directions.
Dad will not ask for directions.
And then the gas station guy wants to sell you a new, this map will help you out better. You should buy this one,
And not all maps are equal, I would say.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my understanding is you're a planner, Caroline.
So I am a planner. I used to have a problem with planning.
What was your problem with planning?
I was excessive about planning.
Oh.
And I didn't like change. I mean, I planned everything.
Oh.
But this was back when I homeschooled my girls. So you have to have a whole plan for the year.
You do, apparently.
Yeah. I guess if you're a teacher, I'm not.
Or if you care. If you care about your kids learning, yes, you got to have a plan.
Then I had the menu plan on the fridge. This is what we ate for breakfast. This is what we ate for lunch. This is what we ate for dinner. And over the years, I've just gotten more lax. Like the menu plan became, here's a list of dinners that are in the fridge.
Okay.
I don't even know what I'm going to be hungry for that night.
There's
and I would get
frozen nuggets.
I would get mad
yourself.
if we were supposed to have chicken and rice, and I was like, but I'm really hungry for some pasta, But it said, so then now I can't even tell you what we're having for dinner tonight.
Oh wow!
So I've definitely.
I mean, you've talked about wanting to plan things for quite some time.
But I do there are things that I do like to plan. I've said to you, hey, let's sit down and plan out our schedule for topics.
And I pretend like I don't hear you.
He ignores me.
No, it's not true.
Just to show you both, though, what's on my computer right now. Look at this, and we'll go over it later. Is a podcast calendar.
Oh,
yeah. See, because I'm gonna force you to do it, or I'm gonna do it for you.
No, I listen. I appreciate that. I really do.
So I do like to plan ahead with stuff.
Okay.
For me, I feel it's more out of a necessity. I don't have an abundance of brain cells left. So I need to know where I need to save them to use them.
No, that's a great point because by planning, you can put something in motion or you can create an outline that says, hey, here's the general thing we're doing. Some people are like micro planners, down to the second.
Yeah. So I have learned I've learned not by wanting to learn. God has forced me to learn this, to have margin in my life.
Yes.
Right? Because without, and I love it because even when we have no notepad, like a legal size notepad of paper is what we use at work to take notes.
Okay.
Right? And there's a margin. And that margin's there for a reason.
Yes.
I used to start in the margin and I would write from one end to the other.
Oh, wow.
Right?
And God, how symbolic.
It was totally symbolic. And And then you need to add something, right? Oh, I need to add this to there. And all of a sudden your paper's a mess because there's no space. So same thing with margin in our lives. We have to have that empty space so that when we need to add something or something comes up in our plans, like we have the space to put it in there.
So you bring up a good point because, and this is actually a workplace, I want to say theory. I want to say, principle in the workplace, that if you have systems that are planned out, and when I say systems that are planned out, I'm even talking about operational systems of employees where each of them are following a strict set of rules, right? We call that a tight-knit system. And the tighter the knit of the system, if one of those components fails, then the whole system fails. And so someone who is a tight-knit planner and wants to plan up to the minute, boy, man, you run 5 minutes over on a few of those things and your whole day is wonky.
Yeah.
So yes, people like to plan because it does give them less anxiety. It helps them to be able to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. But if you carry it to the point where every 5 minutes is planned, that has more of a likelihood of falling apart.
Yeah.
Now, when you compare that to an open or a flexible system in where it's not so tight knit, it's spread out, right? And each of the in a work system, each of those employees is given a certain level of autonomy to make decisions on their own. They don't have to follow a strict set of rules. In fact, they may better follow principles instead of strict rules.
Yeah.
Then that is a more resilient system.
Yeah.
And the same thing can be true for the way we plan.
Yeah.
So planning good, but if we rely too heavily on the plan and something goes amiss, it can actually remove creativity and being able to act on the fly.
I had a friend years ago, and I love how she said it, because she was a planner, and she said, yes, I'm a planner, but I hold my plans loosely.
Aha.
Right?
Good for her.
We hold them with open hands, not with closed fists. Okay. And so that's the one thing that I've had no choice. I didn't want to learn it, but I learned it over the years of like, okay.
So what did planning do for you when you were tight-fisted about it?
Made me a control freak.
No. Okay. Thank you. No, of course it did. But
honestly, yeah. It made me feel
thank you.
Sane and stable.
Okay. So why?
Because I had a very insane and unstable life.
Okay.
Especially, I have a special needs child.
Sure.
At that point I was homeschooling.
Okay.
Just other things that were in there. And
that's a
so
lot.
It was, and with a special needs child, you do have to have, they need structure. So you do have to have some kind of planning. But it just made me feel, it did give me a sense of control and saneness and stability.
Well, then would you go insane when something didn't follow the plan?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would have been fun to watch.
You've seen me go insane. What are you talking about?
But I mean, the more times I can see it, I think that'd be awesome.
It'd be fun to watch.
As long as it doesn't involve me.
No, it would literally spin me out, right? Because number one, I didn't give myself that margin.
Aha.
So, I would say a good thing is in my family, my side of the family, if someone is sick or in the hospital, you drop everything, you go. The whole family's there.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. And so,
hey, I've seen families in the emergency room. Is that what is
that's
okay.
us. And we all know to grab our change because we're going to need the vending machine. No,
wow.
You don't need change for a vending machine. You can use your phone. It's fabulous.
It's dangerous.
I love it. And so then it's, as I'm going to the emergency room or wherever, I would be like in my mind redoing my whole plan of how is this going to work, because all the stuff still needs to happen and go. And
so that's interesting, because then that's an aspect of anxiety, trying to control the environment, right?
Yeah.
So like so many things we do in anxiety, they create more anxiety.
Yeah.
Right. So the tight knit, like if I just knew what I was doing every minute of the day, then I'll feel better.
Yeah.
Actually cause you more anxiety, because if something didn't go according to plan, it was like, oh no, tailspin.
Totally.
Wow.
Totally.
How did you start to break out of that?
That's a really good question. How did I start to break out of that? I think just in doing my own healing.
Okay.
I think in doing my own healing and, and just recognizing, we serve a God who is in control and his plans are so much better and greater than mine.
Okay. So in a sense, giving up your own plan and saying, look, God, you got this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just, probably like just getting out of my own head. Right. And like, okay. I don't have to accomplish all of these things and I'm not a failure if I don't accomplish all these things.
Okay. That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And potentially people who plan are wanting to accomplish things or they don't want to. A lot of times the narrative, I don't want to waste time. Mm-hmm. I got to get all these things done.
I don't want to let people down.
Right. I don't want to absolutely. Mm-hmm. Right. And I can guarantee you in all the relationships that I see, busyness is a relationship killer.
Oh yeah.
Because people have no margin. Like mm-hmm. you were talking about, they have no margin and then they wonder why their relationship with themselves suffer and why their relationship with their spouse suffers.
Yeah.
And they don't allow themselves margin. Yeah. So this speaks to actually having less planning, maybe planning to do less. As far as the list of things that we think we have to do. Well,
and I mean, so bringing the biblical part, God literally says, be still.
True that.
And so it is, I mean, you might have to plan those moments to be still.
There's no verse about planning?
Well,
there's Ezra and Nehemiah where they planned and built the wall, did all
but they probably still took their Sabbath.
You know it.
Right.
Otherwise they get spanked.
Right. So
figuratively.
Caleb, I love your face on your face on that one. I wish the camera
sometimes when I speak, Caleb dials the thing, and it's weird. It's like he's cutting me. Anyway, so okay. Having said that, yes, planning is important, but planning has its detriments. There is tremendous benefits to having planned. Now, I taught junior high school for 2 years, high school for 6 years, and I would have a general plan. And what I would do is I had a table of contents. I had my students keep a notebook. And I started off, I would start saying, okay, we're going to spend 2 weeks on this unit, 2 or 3 weeks on this other unit, 2 or 3 weeks on this unit. And every single day, I had a table of contents. I had them make a table of contents in their notebooks. Every single day, I would place the table of contents up on the projector, and they would write down what we were doing that day.
Yeah.
Now, after the first year, I had a complete and utter plan to the day of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Now, I am not a planner, but through that, I started to realize the blessing and the benefits of having a plan.
Yeah.
Right. And then in years subsequent, I would do the same thing, write down every day what they would need to do. And I would compare it with the last semester, the last year or whatever. And I would say, okay, am I on track? I better speed it up. Or I would throw out certain things that didn't seem to work, or and invite other things, experiment, so to speak. And so I kind of fell into a type of planning. The whole notebook idea I got from a master teacher I had, Michael Viss.
Nice. But I like how you're like 2 or 3 weeks. I think that or is a good word to add in planning. This could take me 10 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to add that little extra in there. If it takes less, then you've given yourself a gift. If it takes more, then redo it the next time you make the plan. Yeah.
And then just not, I think one of the things that people do is the plan, it becomes a goal to stick to the plan. And then it, like you said, it becomes an idol, and it becomes this measuring stick that people determine their worth. And if they don't fit the plan, then, oh my gosh. And I've talked to people on vacation who like, oh, we went on vacation. It was so exhausting. Everything was planned that I'm like, that is so...
Those are the worst vacations.
Seems so not fun. What is up with that?
You come back more exhausted than you were.
Yes.
That's a trip, not a vacation.
good point.
Yeah.
I've even heard of couples where one's a planner and one's not. And so they, in the interest of relational harmony, they compromise and they'll do one day where they do a whole lot of nothing.
Okay.
And then another day where things are planned out,
Okay.
which, hey, that could be
That
the
works too, yeah.
benefit of both worlds.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
I found a few Bible verses.
I thought that's what you were doing over there.
Nice.
Like, Caleb's looking up verses.
So
for
here
us.
are two from Proverbs. Proverbs 16:9 says, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps."
Yes.
And then Proverbs 19:21, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails."
And I think that's the number one thing is the problem with planning is when we don't let the Lord work in it. That will make your planning a problem.
But then why make plans? Why don't you say, hey, Holy Spirit, take me where you're going to go. Let's see what's going to happen. Why not do that?
Because then you're not going to get to work or
get
groceries or there's no
What's your
dinner
plan for
or-
today? I'm doing it on the couch. So it's funny. So actually, there's a psychological principle here. People do derive a certain amount of comfort from planning.
Yeah.
God's word wouldn't even mention planning if it were not a habit and a principle that men and women take part in. Right. To be able to have a vision. If we're going to have a vision of going in a direction, as Mel and I build our house, right, there is a plan.
Yeah, right. If you didn't have a plan.
Oh gosh. Like, where's this thing go?
I would be like, I'm not walking into your house.
There's
it's
exactness,
fall.
there's measurement, right? Yeah. But if it were all like, oh gosh, the concrete's coming on Tuesday and it's raining, that would be a problem.
That would be a problem.
Good thing we're not there yet.
Well, and it's interesting because for me, because I've gone from being an excessive planner to being a I don't know.
You were a reformed planner?
Am I reformed? Am I more of a normal planner? I don't know. No one ever uses me and normal in the same sentence, so that would be weird. Is like I even noticed it. Okay, so this week we've had an issue with my daughter with special needs. She no longer has a day program to go to. And normally that would spin me out because that means like, how do I go to work? How does my husband, someone can't go to work, and now it's, I have her all day long and no help with that. There's just a lot of things. And so it would normally completely spin me out.
Right.
And so as I've, talked to friends about this and they'd be like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I feel totally fine. Like I have no anxiety about it because number one, I'm not thinking about, if I don't go to work, I'm going to let people down.
Oh boy. Yeah. I was going to say, you got to save all your clients, Carol.
Yeah.
Holy cow. What are they going to do without you?
Exactly. So I mean, there's that, so I'm like, no, like this is a priority. Like God will provide. If I don't go to work, I don't get paid. Right. That's the kind of job I have. No work, no pay. Well, that's okay. God's going to provide, I just feel all of those, that piece of like, right. I've allowed him to bring that, not allowed him. I don't have to allow him to give me peace, but I'm open for him to lay his peace upon me in this.
Right.
And so I've seen that
allowed it,
in just my growing and healing in this of like, hey, my plans are not held tight. They're so open that I'm like, okay, like we're going to sit down tonight and we're going to figure this out.
That's a scary thing for a lot of people. It feels to them like they're hanging over a chasm, holding onto a rope and someone saying, just let go.
Yeah. Well, because you have to have like faith in that too. Right? Faith in, if I don't go to work, am I, for some people it's, am I going to get fired? Am I going to be able to pay rent? Am I going to have groceries? That their plans failing could involve that.
Absolutely.
And so there is that stepping out into faith and going, okay, God, I see your plan in this.
Yeah.
Like this is now your plan. Your plan's different than mine.
Yeah.
I've seen time and time again that his plans are usually better than my own.
I've got a verse for that.
Ooh, yes.
Jeremiah 29:11.
Okay.
For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future.
One of my favorite verses. And so, you have to,
I'm not trying to kill you here.
Right.
Yeah. Just because your plans don't happen, it doesn't mean I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this might not even be for me. This could be for someone else. Me, which is whatever. It could be, and you have to remember that too. Like could involve someone else, but that if I sit here and I go, well, crap, this wasn't my plan. But God has plans, and it's for hope, and it's for a future. And so that turns your perspective.
So I would totally, I want to, because I know it sounds like we're working both sides of the fence here, but again, I want to encourage a certain type of planning, because I think God prompts us to have the desire to move forward. Right. Yes. Just like making resolutions, there should be a time where we reflect on ourselves, our situation, and we say, okay, I want to move from the place I'm at to a place over there. Right.
Yeah.
And the best way there is to come up with a plan that's practical, that's possible.
Right.
Right.
Right. Because I could say I'm going to read 6 books this year.
Yes.
But if I don't even pick 6 books or come up with when would be a good time for me to start reading these?
Right.
I'm not going to read 6 books this year.
Yes. So here's a couple things, practical things, right? When it comes to planning, anything you can think of off the top of your head?
No, because you had stuff.
Yeah. So. Well, more or less, practical things as far as planning are concerned are what need is it meeting? Right. If you've got to sit and reflect on the need you have. It could be very practical. Like, I got to get the kids to school.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so being able to plan what it is you need. Right. Of course, there are time considerations and how long, of course, it would take. Some of us, including myself, might have a difficult relationship with time. And it is part of an ADD thing, but it is also a disconnection from an aspect of creation, believe it or not, that says there is almost a delusion that goes on where I say, oh, I've got 10 minutes before I need to leave. I can totally get in the shower, do some grooming, get dressed, powder up, and jump in the car pick out an outfit. I mean, this takes a long time. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
So being able to be practical and say, okay, let me allow some big, nice margin for me to enact this plan. There's actually something called the Parkinson's Law when it comes to planning. And that is the time will expand, or the task will expand to the time allotted. Right. So if someone says, I have all day to clean this room. Well, guess what? You've just planned for yourself. It's going to take you all day to clean the room. So being able to practically say, I've got 1 hour to clean this room.
Yeah.
And that will potentially put a fire under you to really get some stuff out. Now, in the event that you don't, make all the plan, like you didn't clean the room up entirely, the hope is you got to get a good chunk of it done.
Yeah.
So being able to say, okay, the plan was to do this, and maybe the target isn't so super narrow, but maybe the target's bigger. And then you have an option to kind of hit somewhere in that target and not just have to do this specific thing.
It's so funny because that happens to me all the time with mornings and getting ready. I'll be like, I'm sleeping in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I will bust my butt and I'll be on time. Or I'll be like, I'm getting up an extra hour earlier today and I'll have all this time to get ready.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll be late.
Oh, isn't it the way?
I'm like, what the heck just happened?
Mine exists when it's, if we have to go to church and I get up in the morning and I have coffee and breakfast or whatever, and I'm watching YouTube, or I used to watch the CBS Sunday Morning, the old person show.
Yeah.
But now I don't pay for CBS and now they're withholding it from me. So thanks.
Oh. No more old person show for
ridiculous. You. So anyway, now I have to watch YouTube. But my bad habit is I'll start watching the YouTube and I'm like, oh, I got 10 minutes to get in the shower and get dressed and do, I'll fool myself. And of course my wife is very practical and she says, babe, why don't you get ready? Then you can watch your YouTube. I'm like, who are you? No,
that's the rule I have with my kids. I always say we do what has to get done and then we get to do what we want to do.
Wow. Okay.
We do that when we go to Target. I say we have to get what we came here to get, and then we can look at all the other things.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So another consideration when planning, of course, is what do you need? Like being able to ask yourself, what do I need in order to pull this plan off? It could be resources. It could be recruiting some help from other people. It could be, and when I say resources, it could be a number of things: time resources, equipment resources. And being able to say, oh, because the other part of the hardship of planning is when you try to pull a plan off and you don't like think about what you need, and then you're at a place where it's like, well, I can't do that, and then you stop in your tracks and you don't move forward.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like you can't go camping and get there and not have brought a tent. You need to plan to bring a tent to the camping trip.
I've camped without a tent.
Oh my gosh. I forgot who I was talking to. I'm so sorry.
Just put a tarp down. You can sleep under the stars.
I can't go to San Francisco without having made reservations at a hotel.
I've done that.
That's not good planning for me.
What did I do?
That's the sourdough bread
in
one,
Japan.
Right?
I took off. The plan.
There was a plan.
I went to see the XO, the commanding officer of the USS Ronald Reagan. I was going to meet with him the next day, so I had to take off on a train from Fuji to a town near Fuji, whatever, to Yokosuka, the naval base.
Okay.
And on my way, I am on an app. Well, first I thought I was going to stay with River.
Oh.
And it was all like, okay, I got to stay with my boys in the barracks or something or other. And then he texts me saying, Dad, you cannot stay here. And I'm like, I'm on a train in a foreign country. So thank you, Expedia. Shout out. Sponsor. Give us money.
I don't think they listen.
Doesn't work that way?
They don't listen.
I don't think you just get to claim someone as a sponsor.
Yeah. We're gonna send you a bill because we mentioned you on the podcast.
And so I, on the fly, made a hotel reservation in Yokosuka and actually had a hotel. Now,
so you planned on the fly. It was still a plan.
Well, I planned to stay with someone and that didn't work out. So there is a part of excitement that comes with when plans change and don't seem to go the way they should. And sometimes it turns out all the better because there's novelty and experience.
Right. And well, there you go.
There.
That's where you hold your plans loosely and you realize that God's plan is better than yours.
I still think one of the greatest experiences I yet to have, but one of the things I really want to do is like go moto camping like across the country and just ride and do, generally, okay, I'll stay at this campsite or this hotel or whatever, but being able to be like, okay, here I am. Woohoo.
That's the definition of insanity.
Super rad. Super rad.
Although we did have, my husband and I at one point, our retirement plan was to ride motorcycle across the United States to every single Major League Baseball park.
Whoa.
But we were going to be staying in hotels, not camping.
No, that's still rad.
So
where are you going to put all your luggage? I guess on the bike. You could have a little motorcycle trailer.
Yeah. Well, now the joke is because these were our plans before we knew we'd have a child living with us the rest of our lives. Now we're going to have a sidecar and Jillian's just coming with us.
She'd be all over it.
She totally would.
That's cool.
That's our plan. No, we have different retirement plans now. But yes, planning.
Okay. Anything else to say about planning?
Yeah. I got nothing.
Okay.
I think hold your plans loosely. I love that Jeremiah, right? God has plans for us, and that's ultimately what we need to remember. And when we make plans, right, we should sit and pray about them and seek God's guidance in making our plans.
That cannot be said enough. Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you can make all the plans you want, as the verses have said, but it's God who ultimately will ride them out.
Another thing too, I love that, Jesus taught us to pray, give us today our daily bread, right? Like plan for today.
Yes.
Trust God to give you what you need for today.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We can't control like every aspect of our future in our lives, but we can trust that God will provide what we need.
Right.
Amen.
Exactly. All right.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
Thanks for joining us.
Take care. Thanks for joining us today as we continue our journey talking about life's many questions.
To stay connected with us, you can follow us at Downey Park Counseling on both Facebook and Instagram. You can also follow Caroline on Instagram at Relatable Caroline. And make sure you tune in next week for our next question.